Division 1 SEC Graduation Gender Disparity Poster Project by Cooper Brooks, Thomas Simonic, Chris Trevison, Taylor Jones, and Will Udy. Background for SEC Graduation Gender Disparity. So, the background for the graduation gender disparity in the SEC is that in 1990, the Students' Right to Know Act was implemented, which now required universities to release the graduation rates of both the student body and their athletes. After the implementation of the act, it then became evident that the women basketball players were graduating at significantly higher rates than their male counterparts. NCAA Graduation Success Rate. So, what is the graduation success rate? The GSR is a calculation that reveals the true proportion of student athletes that graduate within a cohort of 6 years, meaning they're given not 4 years, but 6 years to graduate, and then that will be included in the calculation.
When interpreting the graduation success rates of universities, it is important to remember that a GSR closer to 100 means that more student athletes are graduating, and GSR closer to 0 means that student athletes are not graduating. So universities with higher graduation success rates are effectively enforcing academic standards and regulations for their student athletes.
The GSR calculation is not negatively impacted by transfer students who leave in good academic standing.
You may be wondering, why does it matter if male basketball players graduate less than female basketball players? Does it really matter that much? It is a disservice to hold male basketball players at a lower academic standard in order to bring revenue to universities.
It is estimated that only 1.1% of collegiate athletes will go into the NBA. Therefore, it is a priority that they stay in school and get an education in order to get a job later on in life.
Common explanations for why male basketball players typically have lower GSR scores than women basketball players.
Now the question is, why do male basketball players have a lower graduation success rate than women basketball players? Well, universities tend to put more pressure on male athletes for a winning season, so the university can make more money. Universities also hold male basketball players at lower academic standards than the student body. There have been cases where basketball players were accepted into their school without completing the SAT and ACT, and other cases where paper classes were made by universities in order to falsely raise their GPA. Also, another big thing is men can enter the NBA at age 19 or when they complete a year of college, while women can only enter the WNBA at age 22 or if they've completed college.
Notable SEC graduation gender disparities from the 2015-2016 basketball season.
NCAA, when dealing with disparities, specifically, we wanted to focus on Kentucky because there's only an 18-point differential, which is pretty surprising because Kentucky is known for one-and-done players and having a really good basketball program. And on the other hand, schools like Mississippi State and Texas A&M have larger differentials, and this is surprising because they're not as good at basketball, so you'd expect them to have more even GSR disparities. And this is a graph. The red represents the women and the blue represents the men. And we found this really surprising how different the differentials are, and hopefully that can be improved over time because this is an alarming fact instead.
Of the 13 SEC teams, Auburn University, Louisiana State, Mississippi State, Texas A&M, the University of Kentucky, the University of Missouri, and the University of Tennessee had the most notable graduation success rate gender disparity between their male and female basketball players for the 2015-2016 season. Mississippi State had the largest graduation gap with a 49-point disparity between their male and female basketball players.
11 out of 13 teams in the SEC, excluding Georgia and Ole Miss, have GSR that was at least 10 points lower than their women's team. And then 8 of 13 teams in the SEC have basketball teams that GSR was at least 15 points lower than the women's. And this is alarming because the gap should not be that big.
Recommendations to improve collegiate GSRs.
Our recommendations are to increase academic requirements that athletes must meet in order to participate in games, to screen the application process to ensure that all athletes have the requirements they need and that no academic fraud took place. Increase the NBA minimum age requirement to ensure that all athletes earn their degrees. Enforce academic standards by having the NCAA fine teams with low GSRs, as well as ensuring apathy is decreased in terms of academics by highlighting the correlation between graduation occupational stability. And finally, provide academic tutors to every basketball player and enforce mandatory study halls.